At that point, I was hooked, and because this got a lot of attention, because I wrote an article for the Village Voice.
Village Voice, right.
And which is reprinted in Cosmopolitan several months later. And I used to claim that my article on UFOs appeared sandwiched between an article on how to have an orgasm and another one on what to wear on your first date. That was my notion of...
Hey man, Cosmo, come on.
Yeah, that was Cosmo at the time.
Joining us today, artist, UFO expert, rencontre, Renaissance man, Bud Hopkins. Bud, welcome.
Thank you. I don't know about all of those adjectives, but nouns.
Well, after having read your new book, Art, Life, and UFOs, I think you easily qualify for all of the above. I have to tell you, Bud, I came into your world via Intruders and witnessed in your UFO books as a young guy. And reading this book, I ripped through it because I was really fascinated about the art world that you played in, you've succeeded in, you've lectured about, you've taught about.
Well, one of the reasons I wrote the book, too, was from the whole point of view of social history. Like, I've lived through a lot of crazy stuff.
Right.
And like living through World War II as a kid, but I was a very sentient being at that point. And what it was like to be a little kid with your father in Germany and the dirty Nazis and the dirty Japs and so forth, as they used to say. And I thought a lot of people have no idea what it felt like, So I wanted to deal with that and the racism and all the bad stuff, and the sex and the repression and so forth. It's all social history. I mean, it's my history on a personal level, but it's still. It generalizes out into the real world, and then of course the whole art world and the intellectual world in New York.
But why do you think every time there's a special or an ABC news special on UFOs or something, it always seems to like whitewash? There always seems to be the wink, wink, nod at the end. Why is that? Why does there always? Are these journalists afraid to take a position?
I mean,
there's some who obviously believe, but
I think that's true.
I've
been a couple of interesting things on that. The first thing is that the experience I had. Miles O'Brien used to be the science spokesman on CNN. So he came down. He was going to do a little piece on my work, and very nice guy. And he had a UFO sighting, and so he was supporting it, but at the same time, he was going to have to bring in, he was going to have a skeptic, but he was going to ask a lot of tough questions and so forth.
Right.
And the thing that happened at the end, which is so great, was, as it turned out, the woman who was the anchor woman at that point was a total empty-headed bimbo.
Right.
And so when he does his piece, which is more pro-UFO than not, but not strongly so,
Right.
Like he's guarding himself and so forth. She said, "Oh, come on, off it, Miles, this crazy stuff. How can you take these?" And he said, "Look, these people, this is all on the air. These people are really making sense. They're not looking." And he makes this kind of fairly eloquent statement, which he wouldn't have made had she not been such an idiot, and put the whole thing down, But the wink-wink business, it just seems that they want the audience that they can get because of the subject.
Right.
But they don't want to seem to be endorsing it.
Right. Lots of good stories in the book, Bud, I have to tell you. It's a good it's a fast read. That's all. It's a page turner, as they say.
Well, I wanted to be a page turner because there's always more. It goes to 460 something.
Yeah. Now let's shift gears. So, the UFO thing, which I am a big fan of as well, and I've done extensive reading by a lot of alleged experts or debunkers, both camps. 1964, you have your encounter.
A sighting,
Your sighting in Truro, well, or you were heading up to Provincetown, right, for a dinner party, and it's not even dusk yet. It's like 5:30.
It was like it was like August, and it was 5:15 or something. You know, it's daylight, perfect daylight.
And I know that stretch of road because I've driven it many
that
times.
long straight stretch.
Yep. And you know, there's nothing to the right of you but the ocean.
But
And then you had those little shacks,
the
little motel shacks to the left of you.
Monopoly houses. We used to call
Monopoly
them.
houses, yeah, very well, aptly titled. Tell me about that experience, and you know, that's a really fascinating story.
Well, the background is that I had no interest whatsoever in UFOs. I'd never heard really any details. It was just not on my radar, you know, as anything I cared about.
Right.
And also with my then wife, who years later said, you know, we never even mentioned that story. I mean, the UFOs. Prior to that happening, we never told. It never came up.
Right.
It just wasn't. So, anyway, driving along, three of us in the front seat. That's when cars used to have a cross front seat. We see on the high ground this lens-shaped thing like that, that was apparently just sitting there, and it was sort of a silver, like a dull aluminum, you know. And we couldn't tell if it was moving because clouds are moving by it, and we're moving, so you couldn't really tell. If it's moving, it's moving very slowly. And like, what is that thing? And so we start looking at it, and I really slow down. And as we start down the hill, we don't know what it is. I thought maybe it's some kind of flat balloon. I've never heard of such a thing, but anyway, I mean, it's like a big balloon. So
Can't be swamp gas. There's no swamp over there.
No, that's true. And the thing was, you couldn't really judge its size. It didn't look huge or anything like that. So as we go down the lower ground, and we're now hanging out the windows, and I'm really going really slow. This whole thing was figured between 2.5 and 3 minutes, which is a long sighting.
Right.
And so we're saying, like, what the hell? And suddenly, and it just shoots off.
So it's not a dirigible shooting off.
It goes right into the wind.
Right.
And into these clouds. And we'd seen the cloud pass in front of it and behind it, and the cloud swallowing it up and so on. But it shoots off, and I hit the brakes, and we all jump out. And it's, my God, look, there it goes. And one of us said, do you think that's one of those flying saucers you used to hear about? You know, it's the first time ever that this thing came up.
Right.
So we go on to the party, and we were really keyed up about this. Like, what the hell was that?
Right.
And we were only, 10 minutes away from the party, if that. And when we went in, we told some people about what we'd seen, and one painter, George, I forget his last name, he said, I used to see these things occasionally on the night sky. They would move around when he lived down by the water in the summer. And I ran into a couple more people, and they said, we saw this thing right above the trees 6 years ago or something. I thought, what the hell is this? Is this a real
thing? Yeah, there were very few satellites circling the Earth in those days.
No, but I mean, like nobody, I never heard about anybody in any personal way ever saying that they saw something like this.
Right.
So I thought, what the hell is it? So when we went back, I started reading about it, and then watched television things and so forth. And slowly I began to think, this doesn't seem like it was from Earth, whatever it was. It didn't have any wings, didn't make any noise, it didn't have a motor, it didn't have, all the things that airplanes have to have. And it certainly wasn't a balloon because it went straight into the wind. So I began to think, okay, this is extraterrestrial, but I couldn't really accept the idea that beyond that there were little people in there or any, God knows, anything like that. And so for the next 11 years, I just read about it off and on, accumulated a lot of accounts from people, friends and so forth, other artists. And that was amazing. I mean, a number of artists who I was really surprised told me about their own experiences.